Those were the words my daughter-in-law, Amanda, spat at me across my own dining table, in the house I bought with 40 years of sweat, overtime, and broken bones on construction sites. She said it with such venom that even my son, David, didn't raise his head to defend me. He just sat there, silent, letting his wife slam the door on me, his own father. Before I continue, if you're new here, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let me back up. My name is Frank Miller, 63 years old, born and raised in Rockford, Illinois. Though I spent most of my life working out of Chicago, I wasn't born with money. I earned every dime by hauling bricks, pouring concrete, fixing roofs in the dead of winter when my fingers went numb. My wife, Ellen, God rest her soul, passed 10 years ago, leaving me with one son, David. He was my pride and joy. I wanted David to have the life I never could. I saved every paycheck, drove an old Ford pickup till the wheels rusted, and skipped vacations so he could go to college. When he graduated with an accounting degree, I cried like a baby at the ceremony. I thought all my sacrifice had been worth it. But then Amanda came along. Pretty girl, sharp tongue, came from a family that always looked down on blue-collar folks like me. At first, I tried. I welcomed her, bought her flowers, even fixed up their first little starter home with my own hands. But she always gave me that look, like I was dirt under her shoes. The trouble started small. I wasn't polished enough at dinner parties. My work boots made the porch look cheap. The old family pictures I hung up in their living room, she took them down. And David, he just kept his mouth shut. Still, I told myself, Frank, don't cause waves. Family is family. That night, though, the night Amanda banned me from their home, was different. We were sitting at the table talking about Christmas plans. I mentioned I'd like to host this year, since it would be my first holiday alone without Ellen. That's when Amanda leaned across the table, her manicured fingers gripping her wine glass, and said, "No offense, Frank, but your house smells like mothballs and sadness. We're not bringing the kids there. You're not welcome." I stared at her, waiting for my son to speak up. But David just fiddled with his phone, his face pale, his jaw tight. He didn't say a word. I felt something break inside me. A silence heavier than concrete filled the room. I pushed my chair back, stood up slowly, and told them, "Careful whose house you're sitting in. Because here's the truth Amanda never bothered to learn. That house wasn't just mine. It was still in my name. The mortgage? Paid off years ago. The deed? Sitting in a fireproof box in my closet. When David and Amanda moved in after their second child was born, I let them take over the upstairs while I fixed the basement into a little apartment for myself. They never asked how it all got paid for. They just assumed it was theirs. That night, as I walked out into the cold Rockford air, I realized something. My son may have forgotten the man who raised him, but I hadn't forgotten who I was. I built roofs for strangers my whole life. Now it was time to decide whose roof I was going to take away. I lit a cigarette on the porch, my hands shaking. The winter wind bit at my face, but all I felt was heat, rage, betrayal. And just then, an idea came to me, sharp and clear as broken glass. I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. No, I was going to remind them whose name was on that deed. Next morning, I woke up in the basement apartment, the part of the house I had built with my own hands. The air was cold, the old furnace groaning like it was on its last leg. I sat at the small kitchen table, staring at my coffee. thinking about Amanda's words. You're not welcome here. Imagine being told that in your own home. I didn't go upstairs that day. Didn't want to face them. But by evening, I heard voices through the ceiling, Amanda's sharp laugh, David's low mumble, the sound of my grandkids running down the hallway. Life went on for them, like nothing happened. 2 days later, Amanda came downstairs. She stood in the doorway like she owned the place. "Frank," she said, her voice clipped, "David and I have been talking. We think it would be better if you moved out. You know, found a little place of your own." I blinked at her. "You want me to move out of my own house?" She crossed her arms, smiling that smug little smile. "You said it yourself. This house is too big for you. We've got the kids to think about. You'll be fine in a senior apartment. They've got bingo nights, right?" The words cut deeper than any knife. Not only was she pushing me out, she was laughing while she did it. I waited for David to show up, to at least soften the blow. But when he finally came downstairs, he couldn't even look me in the eye. "Dad," he muttered, "maybe it would be better. Less tension, you know?" That was the moment my blood boiled. "Less tension!" I barked. "I built this house with my bare hands. I paid for every shingle, every nail. And you're telling me to get out like some squatter?" David rubbed his neck, avoiding my eyes. "Amanda just wants what's best for the kids." I laughed bitterly. "No, son, she wants what's best for herself, and you're too spineless to see it." The room went silent. Amanda's eyes flashed, and she grabbed David's arm, pulling him upstairs. I could hear her voice carrying down the stairwell. "See? This is why he doesn't belong here. He's toxic. He's manipulative. I won't let him ruin our family. Her family, not our family." That night, I couldn't sleep. The basement walls felt tighter, the air heavier. I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to their laughter upstairs. And for the first time in years, I felt truly alone. But loneliness has a way of sharpening a man. The next week, Amanda escalated. She started locking the pantry upstairs, claiming it was for the kids. She told my grandkids not to bother Grandpa Frank because he's grumpy. And then, this one burned the most. She threw away Ellen's old photo, albums that I'd left in the living room. I found them in the trash can, coffee grounds and spaghetti sauce smeared across the pages. I picked up a picture of Ellen, holding baby David in her arms. The edges were soaked in garbage juice. My hands shook as I wiped it clean, but the stain wouldn't come out. That was the night I swore Ellen's memory would not be disrespected. Not by Amanda, not by anyone. The turning point came a few days later. I overheard Amanda on the phone in the kitchen. She thought I was asleep downstairs. "Yes, Mom. We'll get the house transferred soon. David's talking to a lawyer. Frank won't fight it. He doesn't even know what's happening." I froze in the hallway, my heart pounding. They weren't just trying to push me out. They were trying to steal the house right out from under me. The house Ellen and I built. The house I broke my back for. At that moment, the betrayal wasn't just personal. It was war. I went back to the basement, pulled out the fireproof box, and laid the deed on the table. My name, Frank Miller, was printed in bold black ink. No one else's, just mine. I stared at it for a long time, running my finger over the paper. That's when the anger turned to something else. A cold, steady calm. If they wanted to play games with deeds and lawyers, They were about to learn a very hard lesson. You don't steal from a man who built the roof over your head. The next morning, I folded the deed carefully back into its folder and slid it under my arm. I wasn't about to shout or scream anymore. Rage had carried me this far. But now I needed something sharper, colder. I drove into town, the old Ford rattling down Main Street, Rockford, past the bakery, the barber shop, and the diner where everyone knew my name. Folks waved as I passed. These were people I'd fixed roofs for, poured driveways for, built porches for. I wasn't just another old man. I had history here. First stop was Wilson and Barnes' law office, a 2-story brick building near the courthouse. Inside, the air smelled like old books and fresh coffee. I sat down across from Tom Wilson, a lawyer I'd known since high school. He was younger than me, but smart, sharp as a tack. "Frank," Tom said, leaning back in his chair. "What brings you in?" I slid the folder across his desk. "Tom, I need you to make sure no one, and I mean no one, can touch this house without my say-so." He opened the folder, scanned the deed, and nodded slowly. "You're the sole owner. It's in your name, alone. They'd need your signature to transfer or sell. No one can take it from you legally." "Good," I said, my voice steady. But I heard whispers. "They're talking to a lawyer, trying to find a way around me. I want to be ready." Tom tapped his pen against the desk. "We could file a reaffirmation of ownership with the county clerk. Basically, put your claim front and center on public record. That way, if anyone tries to mess with it, they'll run straight into a brick wall." I nodded. "Do it. And one more thing, Tom. If they try anything dirty, I want every legal hammer you've got ready to drop." His smile was small but sharp. "Understood." I left that office lighter than I'd felt in weeks, but I wasn't done. Next stop was Rockford National Bank. I walked up to the desk where Mary Jacobs, the branch manager, sat. I'd helped her husband fix their leaky garage roof 20 years ago. She lit up when she saw me. "Frank, haven't seen you in ages. What can we do for you?" I leaned on the counter. "Mary, I need to check on the equity line attached to my house. Make sure there's nothing open I don't know about." She frowned, tapped at her computer, and shook her head. "Nope, everything's clear. House is fully owned. No liens, no loans, no secondary mortgages. You're clean as a whistle." Relief washed over me. That meant Amanda and David hadn't gotten far. Yet. Before I left, Mary lowered her voice. "Frank, if you're worried someone's going to try something shady, you can freeze access. That way nobody can put your property up as collateral without your direct approval." I smiled. "Do it." By the time I drove home, the plan was forming clear in my mind. If Amanda wanted to play power games, I'd show her what real power looked like. But revenge isn't just about paperwork. It's about timing. So I started laying the groundwork. At the diner that week, I dropped hints with old friends. Nothing too obvious. Just little seeds. "Funny thing," I'd say between bites of bacon and eggs. "Some folks don't appreciate what's given to them." Or, "Sad when a son forgets who paid his way." Word travels fast in a small town. And sure enough, by Friday, I heard whispers. Amanda's sharp tongue had already rubbed half the PTA the wrong way. People started putting 2 and 2 together. Frank Miller's son and his wife are living in his house rent-free, and now they want to shove him out? Small-town gossip is like wildfire. You can't stop it once it spreads. Back at the house, Amanda grew colder. She stopped speaking to me directly, passing messages through David. "Mom wants you to keep your laundry out of the upstairs dryer. Amanda says the kids shouldn't come down to the basement anymore." Always, Amanda says. One night, I finally caught David alone in the driveway as he was taking out the trash. Son, I said, my voice calm but heavy, do you even realize what she's doing to you? To us? He sighed, wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad, she just wants a fresh start. She thinks the house should be ours, officially. For the kids? Future, I shook my head. David, you don't build your kid's future on betrayal. He winced, like the words hit home. But before he could answer, Amanda's voice called from the porch. David, don't let him guilt-trip you. And just like that, he walked away. I stood there under the streetlight, cold air filling my lungs, my fists clenched. They thought I was just some old man they could push aside. But they had no idea what storm was about to hit them. Because I wasn't just going to protect my house. I was going to take away theirs. It was Amanda herself who set the stage for her own downfall. One Sunday afternoon, she decided to throw a family dinner, invited her parents, her sister, even a few neighbors. She wanted to show off her home. Of course, I wasn't invited. At least, she didn't say I was, but it was still my house, and I had every right to be there. I waited until the laughter upstairs was loud, the clinking of wine glasses echoing through the floorboards. Then I put on my best jacket, an old navy blazer Ellen had bought me years ago, and climbed the stairs. The chatter stopped the moment I stepped into the dining room. Amanda froze mid-sentence, her fork hanging in the air. Her parents looked me up and down like I was some uninvited beggar. David's face drained of color. Frank, Amanda said sharply, her voice dripping with disdain. This is a private dinner. I looked around the table. The candles, the roast chicken, the fancy wine, all of it set like a crown on my table, in my dining room, under my roof. Private? I said, my voice calm but firm. Amanda, nothing in this house is private from me, because this house, every brick, every beam, is mine. Her father snorted. Now come on, Frank, don't embarrass yourself. This house belongs to David and Amanda. Everyone knows that. That was the moment I'd been waiting for. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the manila folder. Slowly, deliberately, I laid the deed flat in the center of the table. The room went dead silent. Read it, I said. Go ahead, see whose name is on it. Amanda's sister leaned forward first, her eyes widening as she scanned the document. It says, Frank Miller, sole owner. Murmurs rippled around the table. Amanda's smile faltered, her knuckles white against her wine glass. That's right, I said, my voice steady as steel. This house isn't David's. It isn't Amanda's. It's mine. I let them live here, out of kindness, out of love. And this, I jabbed a finger at the deed, is how they repay me, by trying to push me out, by throwing away my late wife's memories, by telling me I'm not welcome under my own roof. Amanda shot to her feet, her face red. This is outrageous. You can't just waltz in here and humiliate us in front of our guests. I met her glare head on. No, Amanda. You humiliated yourselves the day you decided greed was more important than family. Her parents shifted uncomfortably. One of her, the neighbors whispered. Is it true? They tried to take his house? Amanda's voice rose, shrill and desperate. David, say something. All eyes turned to my son. David sat stiffly in his chair, staring at the deed like it was a death sentence. His lips parted, but no words came out. Finally, he whispered, Dad's right. The room erupted. Amanda's parents gasped. Amanda let out a furious cry. And me! I just sat back, watching the empire she'd tried to build crumble in front of her. But I wasn't finished. I pulled out one more paper from the folder, a notarized statement from my lawyer, Tom Wilson. I laid it on top of the deed. "This," I said, "is a reaffirmation of ownership filed with the county clerk. It makes it legally impossible for anyone to sell, transfer, or alter this property without my signature. So if Amanda was planning on calling a lawyer to transfer the house, she can save her breath. Because it will never happen." Amanda's face twisted in fury. "You vindictive old man. Enough!" I cut her off, my voice booming, louder than I'd intended. "I broke my back 40 years to give my son a better life. And this is how you repay me? You try to erase me from my own home? Well, I won't be erased. Not by you, not by anyone." The silence that followed was thick. Amanda's parents stared at their plates, embarrassed. Her neighbors shifted uncomfortably, clearly itching to leave. And David sat there, pale, unable to defend her anymore. I leaned forward, my voice low and final. "You said I wasn't welcome. Here, Amanda. But I've got news for you. You're the one who isn't welcome." The table gasped. David's eyes shot up, wide with shock. Amanda slammed her hands against the table. "What's that supposed to mean?" I gave her the coldest smile I'd ever managed. "It means I'm done being quiet. And I'm done being generous. You want to test me? Then pack your bags." Her wineglass slipped from her hand and shattered across the floor. And in that moment, Amanda knew the walls were closing in. Amanda didn't leave quietly. I knew she wouldn't. For the next 2 weeks, the house was a battlefield. She stomped through the halls, slamming doors, making snide comments loud enough for me to hear. "This isn't over. He's too old to keep this up. David, you need to stand up to him." But the tide had already turned. The night of that dinner party spread through Rockford like wildfire. At the diner, folks whispered over coffee. At church, heads turned when Amanda walked in. Parents pulled their kids from play dates. Nobody wanted to be associated with the woman who tried to steal her father-in-law's house. One afternoon, I walked into the grocery store and heard 2 women at the deli counter. "Did you hear what she did to Frank Miller? Can you imagine? Kicking him out of his own home? Shameful. Absolutely shameful." By the time Amanda realized what small-town judgment felt like, it was too late. David grew quieter by the day. He stopped laughing at her jokes, stopped defending her. One night, I heard them arguing upstairs, her voice shrill, his voice breaking. And then, silence. The next morning, David knocked on my basement door. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red. His shoulders slumped. "Dad," he said softly, "I'm sorry." I studied him for a long moment. "Sorry for what, son? For not standing up for me? For letting her throw away your mother's memories? Or for almost letting her steal the house?" He lowered his head. "For all of it." There was a pause. And then he said words I'll never forget. "She's moving out." Turned out Amanda's parents had taken her side at first, but once the truth spread, even they pulled away. Nobody wants to defend the villain when the whole town's against her. She packed her bags, muttering about ungrateful small-town losers, and left with the kids to stay at her sister's place. David stayed behind. For the first time in months, the house was quiet, peaceful. That weekend, I went up to the attic, the place I hadn't set foot in since Ellen died. Dust hung in the air like ghosts, but I found what I was looking for: her old Christmas decorations. I brought them down, set them up piece by piece, lights on the porch, garland on the banister, Ellen's favorite ceramic angels on the mantel. When David came home from work, he just stood there, staring at the lights. His eyes watered. "I remember these," he whispered. I nodded. "Your mom loved Christmas. She wanted this house filled with family, not bitterness." For the first time in years, he hugged me. Really hugged me. We spent Christmas together, just the two of us. No Amanda, no insults, no tension. Just a father and son trying to stitch back what had been torn apart. And me? I finally slept peacefully, knowing I had defended Ellen's memory, my dignity, and my home. Amanda thought she could erase me. Instead, she erased herself. Sometimes poetic justice doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it's just a quiet house on Christmas Eve, glowing with lights, where the man who built it can finally sit back, sip his coffee, and know he's still standing. Because in the end, I didn't just take away the roof over her head, I took back my life. Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this one.